love is also greater than anything we can do. And then third, we said love keeps us from being mad, keeps us from holding grudge. So if we have love, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is what? Love. If we have love, faith is the foundation of Christianity, but love is what? The motivation of Christianity. Love should motivate us. If we have grudges, if we have some feud with a person, love should motivate us to find a way to forgive them. That's how important forgiveness is and how we can forgive. Today our objective is to understand why we suffer so much, even if we're living a life pleasing to God. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11 will be our memory verse for the next 3 weeks. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. As we listen in on Brother Winkler's video this morning, got it, guys? Got a shrug. When I cry and want to know why, 1 Thessalonians 2, 11 through 12. Be looking for a father's care and a father's comfort. And we'll talk about chapter 10. Chapter 10. So while we've got some technical difficulties, let's go over study starter questions. When you looked at these, did you think of someone? That's it right there. The cemetery. That's it. When you think of someone that you admire or you know about that's faced a lot of sadness, I can think of a good friend of mine that's went through a lot of cancer in his family, real close members. Did that person you're thinking about, do you think bad things happened to them because they were bad people? Did you think about that this week? People that you know, it may be even you, it may be a close friend of yours or a close family member that's went through a lot. I mean a lot that you just think, I don't know how they went through that. Was it because they were bad people that they went through it? You know, as we think about people in the Bible that suffered, the apostles suffered. Were they bad people? Peter and Paul, they sinned, right? They sinned. They weren't perfect. But did they suffer for doing good? They did. But do you know someone in the Bible that suffered that never did anything wrong? That didn't deserve anything to suffer? Job? Jesus, right? Job, Jesus. Did Jesus do anything to deserve his suffering? No, he didn't. People suffer. Good people suffer. Think about this. Which of the following bothers you most? Bad things happening to good people? Or good things happening to bad people? Because it seems like people that just don't love God, don't have anything to do with God, things happen to go their way sometimes. Why do they get everything? Why are they not suffering? Why? God's no respecter of persons. What should we focus on? What should we focus on? When's our reward? When's God's people reward? When He calls us home. That's right. Bad things do happen to good people. We know that. And we know good things happen to bad people. Let's watch the video. Good? All right. Got that. Thank you.
There's one thing we all share. We could talk about the brevity of life for a baby that dies just minutes after birth. We could talk about the longevity of life enjoyed by an octogenarian. It just really doesn't matter. Young or old, healthy or not, we all have something in common. We all breathe. Go back to Adam. God gave him the breath of life, Genesis 2:7. Paul said God gives to all mankind life and breath, Acts 17:25. We all share in our need for air. There's something else we share. From our location, you probably already know. It's death. It's appointed for man to die, Hebrews 9:27. Unless Jesus comes, we're all going to quit breathing the air we share. But there's still something else we all have in common. Guess what it is? Can you guess? In addition to the breath that we breathe and the death we experience, unless there's a physical anomaly, every human being that has ever lived cries. We do it differently, but we all express feelings of grief. Some of us sob and shake. Some of us shed enough tears to, fill a lake. Some of us try to hide our pain, but shallow, disrupted breathing proves that we're fake. We all cry. One way or another, we understand what David meant when he said, "Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with my weeping." Psalm 6, verse 6. For some, sadness has become a way of life. From one trauma to one drama after another, there doesn't seem to be any relief. If you open their Bibles to Psalms 42:3, "My tears have been my food day and night," you might find written in the margin, "Been there, done that." Why does God let that happen? Why does God let us hurt? Some get deeply philosophical in their answer. He's God. You're man. Give it a rest. Some get theological. God is sovereign. He'll do what's best. Some get practical. This will help you. You can learn from it. It's a test. And there's truth in each of those answers. But I'd like to let God tell us what he thinks. Give us his answer. It's found in Hebrews 12, verses 5 and 6. Have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him, for the Lord disciplines the one he loves. God won't make us face what we can't handle, 1 Corinthians 10:13. But he allows us to face what we can handle. He lets pain come into our lives because he knows it can deepen our relationship with him. In this passage, we're the son. God is our father, and pain is the discipline our father uses to instruct us. Pain will help us. It will help us see God in ways we could never otherwise. It will help us see God as a father that is involved in our lives. It will help us connect and respect and love him more than we ever have. For just a minute, think with me about the care of a father. A father. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 11 and 12, Paul wrote this, "Like a father with his children, we exhorted each of you and encouraged you." Look at that carefully and compare it to God's use of suffering as a father to help us. First, a father cares. Like a father with his children, we exhorted, Paul wrote. The word he used for exhorted paints the picture of a father coming to his child when his child calls for help. A father can recognize the voice of his own son or daughter above all other voices. No matter how many children are playing together, when he hears his little ones cry, his love instinctively drives him to that child's care. That's the way God wants us to see him. Cast all your anxieties, cares on him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5, verse 7. A father also comforts. Like a father with his children, we exhorted and encouraged you, Paul went on to write. The word he used for encouraged might be illustrated by a daddy sitting to the side of his little boy's bed. They said the prayers. The little boy has been tucked in for the night, but he looks up into his daddy's eyes and he says, "Daddy, I'm scared. Would you tell me a bedtime story?" God wants us to see him that way. He's a father that will run to our cry for help. But then he'll embrace us and let us know there's nothing to fear. It's going to be okay. I'm here. He's the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction. 2 Corinthians 1, verses 3 and 4. So we're going to hurt. We're going to cry. And we'll want to know why. We can't beat the answer God has given us, can we? We suffer because he knows it will help us draw to and be closer to him. And that brings us to one more memory verse for our studies. Hebrews 12, verse 11. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. With your study leader, think about the love of God as a father just a little more. Allow yourself to be lifted up by this wonderful idea. And I'll look forward to visiting with you again in our next study.
So why does God allow us to hurt? Why do you think God allows us to hurt, to feel pain? Pain will help us. It'll help us two ways, right? We talked about it, or Brother Dan talked about it. What two ways? Draw closer to him. What else? Can we keep our kids from pain? As much as I try with my girls, they're going to get hurt, right? I will absolutely destroy the boy who first hurts me. No matter what, right? They're going to be hurt. Does it make you feel good? Those of us who has kids, grandkids, most of us in here, does it make you feel good as a parent when they rely on you? When they come and they're hurt? It hurts us, right, when they're in pain, but does it make you feel good to be there, to protect them, to care for them, to encourage them, hug them? You think God enjoys that? You think God, the same relationship, do you think he enjoys the same relationship of being our Father? He wants us to rely on him. He created us, right? He does. He does. And when we have pain and suffering, if we didn't have pain and suffering, would we, I guess another way to look at it is if everything was great here and on earth and we didn't have any pain or suffering, didn't have to rely on anybody, would we ever talk to God? Would you ever open up the Bible and even think about God? We wouldn't. We'd be conceited, think we've arrived, think we've done everything ourselves, right? We wouldn't look to the Creator for help. Pain and suffering allows us to draw closer to God.
We really look at our history and our own life, we realize that when we're close to God.
Roger, even when times are bad, right? And times are good, right? It helps us connect with God. Did you catch that word? Remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about forgiving others and how there was a need to reconnect. Pain and suffering, if things are good and we've arrived and, David's done it, right? When I feel pain and suffering, it allows me to reconnect to my Creator. How many of us think about this? I won't ask. In our study harder questions, it says for someone to tell the story of when they thought, when they asked God why or thought that God had let them down. I won't put anybody on the spot, but I know that everyone in here, saying that God let you down is strong, but everyone in here has faced a trial or a tribulation that why is God doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? If you've been through sickness or one of your loved ones has been through sickness, you've lost a job, dealing with cancer, why? Why me? Why is the person that I work with that lives such a bad life, why do they have it good? Why is it me that's dealing with cancer? Or me that lost my job? We talked a little bit about it, why God allows us to suffer. But there's two things. Bad things are not always. The first is, bad things are not always bad. Bad things are not always bad. Now, my boss, this statement will stick with me for a long time. My boss says, David, things are they're never as good as you think they are. So if you think everything's great, they're not that good, and they're never as bad as you think they are. Bad things, when bad things happen to us, may not all be bad. There can be some good come out of it. When before 2005, and someone was sick, I made a bad statement several times. And I've thought about this several times since 2005. When someone was sick, I'd put my arm around them and say, I know what you're going through. How ignorant. How ignorant I was. I know what you're going through. I sympathize with you. When Dad got sick with cancer, and we went through what we did with him, when someone is going through a sickness like that, I can go put my arm around them and say, and cry with them, and say, I know what you're feeling. That's not a bad thing, brothers and sisters. That's a good thing. That you can take something that you've gone through that's bad, and you can lean on each other, and you can say, I know what you're feeling, and truly know, and not be ignorant. God gives us each other, right, to lean on. Not just to go to Him as our Creator, not to draw closer to Him, but to also to grow closer to each other. And when someone is in the past has lost a job, right, they can go to another brother that's lost a job and say, it's going to be all right. I went through this same thing. Johnny, one of Johnny's statements that I'll share, and y'all probably heard him say it, he said, I'm excited about what God has in store for me when things are bad. I'm excited to see what God has in the future for me. It's a great positive outlook. It's why is this happening? I'm excited to see why this is happening. He can go to God the Father on our behalf because He's seen what we went through. Why was Paul given the thorn in the flesh? Why did Paul say he was given a thorn in the flesh? He may know. Why did he say he was given a thorn in the flesh? Keep him humble. Did Paul want it? Paul prayed to have it removed, right? Paul suffered pain with this thorn in the flesh. He didn't like it. But it kept him from being, he says, to being conceited. But it also brought him closer to God, right? Paul had a lot of talents that was given to him. He could have easily, well, he thought he could have, or he wouldn't have said it. He said, to keep me from being conceited. If he wouldn't have had the thorn in the flesh, he may have not have, there may have been situations that he wouldn't have relied on God and wouldn't have thought God was the reason for all of his blessings. 2 Corinthians 1, 3 through 4. Can someone get that? 2 Corinthians 1, 3 through 4. Yes, sir.
Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble, with the comfort which we ourselves are comforted by God.
So that wraps it up, right? He comforts us. And what are we able to do when someone else is having afflictions or trials? We're able to comfort them. When we have pain and we get through, our faith is strengthened when we get through that valley, right? Someone is saying, it may have been Dan Winkler said, you're either on top of the mountain or you're going into tribulation. You're in a tribulation, or you're just coming out of one. So, I think Gene said it 3 or 4 weeks ago. If a man thinks he stands, he better take heed lest what? He falls. That's right. So if you're on top of the mountain, get ready. You're fixing to go into a trial. Our verse this morning, Hebrews 12:11. Someone read that again. Hebrews 12:11.
Now, no chastening seems to be joyful. You said Hebrews 12:11.
Yes, sir. So let's focus for the last few minutes here on that third word there this week. For the moment. What does moment mean to you? Instant. Moment. Okay. What else? Good. Good. Temporary. What else? Right now. Very good. Y'all work well together. temporary, right now. What does that mean to you? Instead of saying moment, what does that mean to you? For right now, temporary, all discipline seems painful. Ooh, very good. Level, you want to sit on the front row with Marty and Shelley? It's going to go away, right? Does that mean that some people can't suffer all their lives? You ever known anybody that seemed to suffer all their life? Doesn't mean that, does it? You can suffer all your life. What does that mean when it says it's going to go away? Okay? What does that mean that pain is temporary and right now? It's not it. Can we suffer all of our life and it be in a moment? We can, right? What's our focus as Christians? God's promises. And that promise is what? We're going to see pain in heaven? Is it a moment away? It is, ain't it? Right now, we may be in pain. You think Paul kept that thorn in the flesh? Probably did. He was in pain. You think he's in pain now? You think it seemed like a moment to him? Temporal, for the moment. Something that's right here around us now, close to us, but it will come to end, even if it lasts our lifetime. Got about 2 minutes. Any other comments? Any other thoughts today's lesson about why we suffer? Very good. Very good. Thank you for your comments.